talking to Kesty. We'll be discussing teaching in different cultures. We'll be discussing her experience as a teacher in Botswana, her experience as a teacher in the UK, and let's invite her to the show. Kesty, welcome. Can you please introduce yourself? Let's start with that.
Um, Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Cassie Brock. Originally from Botswana, born and bred in Cloqueng, and I migrated to Britain 1993,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been living here for. I'm trying to adjust my camera. I've been living here for the last 25 years.
Wow. Tlokweng, I didn't realize
Um,
you came from Tlokweng. Somehow I placed you in Maung or in Siroe. I don't know why Siroe. Maybe because I met you through a friend who came from Siroe. So Tlokweng, okay.
yeah,
I didn't know Rumutlok.
yeah. Motlokwa, Mina Takatu.
Okay.
Yes. And originally I was a teacher in Botswana. I trained as a teacher in Botswana at Molepolilo College of Education. And I did, I think, about a year and a half of teaching in Botswana before I left with my husband and my children. And I came to the UK and became a mom, stay-at-home mom, a very enjoyable job. Um, but it was, very challenging but enjoyable. Um, and of course, once you have been inside the classroom or you've had a career, you just really want to go back.
Yeah.
And necessity also meant that I needed to go back. So I went back into education and obtained my degree in politics and sociology at Exeter University.
And
Um, Now I am teaching, just about to wrap up teaching for good, I think. Because I think I've given enough to teaching, so I need to get out of the classroom and do something
oh,
different.
once a teacher is
Yeah.
a teacher. But look back. I'm interested in. You taught a little bit in Botswana, and then now you went to school, in
Mm.
the UK, and also your kids went to school there, and also then you did some teaching there as well. What would you say are the major differences, if any? Maybe I know that when you're teaching Botswana, you're much younger, so maybe the difference are also from your own personal in terms of where your journey is in terms of teaching. But would you say there's any difference between teaching in your own culture and teaching in another culture?
Mm. That's really quite interesting because when we talk about culture, we're talking about the whole of an individual, their belief systems, their value systems, what they think matters. And that interaction then with others determines the outcome of that teaching experience. And so when I was in Botswana, I was in a culture where the teacher was paramount,
Uh-huh.
um, and education highly valued as something that gets you out of poverty, for example.
Okay, interesting. Uh-huh.
So the interaction between the teacher and the student in Botswana, I would say, was that of a master, students being done to,
Interesting.
um, than having this collaboration. I mean, I'm speaking from my own experience and what I had experienced as a student in Botswana. And so the power dynamics are sort of leaning more on the teacher's side,
Uh-huh. The boss of the
for
classroom.
good or bad. We'll discuss that. And then coming into the UK, I am confronted with a different culture, both socially and inside the school, the schools themselves. In what way? One, I had to adjust to the culture, British culture, which is very liberal. Um, the individual having the capacity really to think for themselves and being encouraged to think for themselves and to act on their own agency. Um, Something that really drew me to and made me enjoy teaching more because my students are coming in. Remember, also I didn't teach secondary school here. I've always taught higher education and sixth form.
Okay.
So these are people that are already, they know what they want to do.
Mhm.
University, sixth formers who want to go to university. And then we have what do you call them again? The ones coming from behind. These are adults coming into education.
Okay. Yes. Mhm.
Access course,
Mhm.
and then you have the foundation degree students that we taught. So they'll do 2 years of their first year, that 2 years of their degree with us. So having said that, then, so I am observing the culture that these students are coming from. They are thinking, to start off with, different from mine in their approach
Mhm.
to learning and the importance of education.
Mhm.
So
Um. Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, and so and the expectation of what a teacher does and the relationship I'm going to have with the teacher is completely also different. Um, I have never been referred to as Mrs. Brock or Miss, and I wouldn't like that if somebody called me that. I am so used to just being called Cassie because I'll tell you what that does in a classroom situation. You break that barrier
Mhm.
between the teacher and the student, and your relationship becomes accessible because we have taken off that veil
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
power, if you like. So the
Mhm.
power dynamics between myself and my students is completely different. So we approach each other with that level of mutual respect,
Mhm.
no fear, um, and basically saying to each other, what can you get from me and what can I give you?
Mhm. I mean, it's very interesting, and also, I mean, I think it's valuable because you're sharing your personal experiences, and I'm sure it will resonate for many people who've been, in both cultures or come from one culture to go to the other. Let's talk about discipline. You know, how you, when in Botswana, maintain discipline in a classroom, and how it's different when you are in the UK. Even if you didn't teach young people, your kids had to be part of a classroom setting where a teacher, had to guide them in terms of how to run a disciplined community within a classroom.
Mm. I've always been a believer that respect, mutual respect between teacher and student, paramount. Give students respect, they will give it back because there's trust there. There's safety. You've created an environment of safety. Now in Botswana, I know that people use a cane a lot. That was something that was I tried, and my students would laugh at me. It wasn't part of my DNA to pick a stick and hit a child because my father was a stronger believer in talking to us.
Okay.
I can tell you, Unity, the one time my father took a little twig
Mhm.
and tried to instill in me learning because I could not read and I could read the whole of the book. But when I came to the word and,
Mhm.
I just froze.
Oh.
And so I remember that for the first time, dad picking and said, what are you doing? And that was horror to me.
Mhm.
So I've never hit my children.
Mhm.
And the only time I pat my children, they cried with horror at me. Pat on the finger, on the, yeah.
Mhm.
So the discipline for a child for me is let's talk about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to establish the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
what I
that's a
did
huge.
quickly,
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
what I did quickly enough when I came here in England and started teaching, also you are looking at the way parents have parenting their children.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use the cane. I don't think it's got a place in the education system whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your child does not understand the formula you are giving them, as a teacher, you need to find another way of explaining that same thing in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I normally do before I start teaching the beginning of the year, when I get new students, we all write down our aspirations. What is it that you want to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
They also then come up as a group, the ethos of the classroom.
Okay.
How are we going to run this classroom? Once we've all agreed as different groups, we then take what is essential, we put it up on our wall,
Mm-hmm.
and that forms a contract between me and my students.
So in a way, I mean, you start off the year by really creating a community
Mhm.
and its values, you know,
Yeah,
the community values.
yeah,
Going back to the cane or the stick or corporal punishment, as you know, people want to call it, you know, there is actually a, you know, again a raging debate, or at least it was about a month ago, you know, that some people who really believe that, I mean, a child must be beaten into discipline or into
submission.
learning maths or, you know, or reading better. And I mean, personally, I've never, you know, believed that at all, at all, at all,
Mm.
at all. But some people who really swear by this stick, you know, what would you say to, and some of them are teachers, some of them are parents, some of them are legislators, are saying, bring back the stick. You know, what's your comment about that? As a Mozoana living abroad who've seen more than just one education system.
It's very simple. One, using that form of cohesive power on another person is disrespectful. That's what my father taught me. My father talked, and he was a traditional Motswana teacher.
Okay, was a teacher as well. Okay, come from a family of teachers.
Yeah. And I know when teachers have slapped my face, which they did,
Mm-hmm.
taken my book and thrown it across the room, taken the cane and went on us with it. I remember the sense of injustice. Up to this day, Unity, I hate those teachers. I'm sorry to use that word, it's very strong. But that is how strongly I believe. We cannot do the same thing and expect different results.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
mm-hmm. I
It,
mean,
it has talk to people.
mm-hmm.
My kids are always saying that, Mommy, we used to hate it when you said to us, I am getting cross. Because I use two words. You're going to make me angry. Now I am cross. And once I used those two words, my kids knew that when I say I am cross, there is discipline that comes. I'm going to take something from you, or you're going to have to go and check out. You're going on checkout. Then come back to me. Then you're going to talk to me about why you did what you did.
2 years ago, my own class, the class of 77 from
Mm,
Leaf got together. And I was surprised at how many people in that class were recounting stories like what you're talking about. The teachers they still hate. Somebody who was beat them when they were maybe standard 3, when they were maybe 10 years old, maybe 7 years
mm,
old. They still remember. These people are
mm,
now in their 60s who still
mm,
have a very, very, very strong
mm.
emotions, negative emotions, you know, against his people. So it's interesting that you know, but still people believe that violence can beget good things, you know.
Violence doesn't bring good things. What it does then, we are desensitizing the next generation into the same type of behavior, and it doesn't solve anything, you know.
And
Um,
there's
oh,
some people who say that corporal punishment in schools actually, in a way, like you said, desensitize maybe even um, people to gender-based violence. I mean,
mm,
the whole idea that if you are slightly powerful, either because of age or because of
mhm,
position, you can actually
mm,
use force. Maybe force of a stick at that time,
yeah,
later it's force of other things. Bullying, also comes from this idea that if you have power, you can
mm.
actually use your might on another person. What do you say to that?
It's absolutely foundational. As I said, we're talking about culture in education. So if our ethos is to use our power negatively on others, they will continue to repeat the same cycle. And we see that the teachers that we have now in Botswana are still using the cane, even in times where we have this huge HIV problem in our schools, because children sometimes are born with that through no fault of their own. There are, you know, diseases that are in the blood. So why are you hitting somebody to a point where you are cracking the skin? Why are you doing that? What are the, what is safeguarding here? Our students need to be safeguarded. They come
So
to us to impart some knowledge, to empower them on their lives. And as I'm saying, some of them, like myself, I left school, especially primary school, with really strong negative emotions towards those people that were supposed to take care of me. Let's remember, students spend about 8 hours with their teachers. So let's make this experience enjoyable for them. Let's make it a safe space for the children.
that's an
Adult
interesting.
students, young students, let's treat them the way we would want our children to be treated. It's as simple as that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that thought, and I think we have, in a way, established, at least in terms of discipline. And let's be very clear: not all teachers in Botswana beat
Mm,
their students, but of
mm,
course the law allows it to happen, and therefore it still happens. And even among teachers, there is a huge debate. The big debate. Some teachers, are against it, and some
good.
teachers are for it. But also, on the other hand, it's an easy way to deal with you know, a problem without having to engage too much. I mean, stick is it's much easier to take a stick and and communicate very quickly. I don't like that than taking the time to say, look, why are you late? Oh, I'm late because my mom, is sick. But if it's easier
Mm,
to beat everybody who's late than to find
mm,
out why they are late, for example. So, and so like, I thought I should put it out there that of course not every teacher believes in it, and not every adult, not all parents are against it. Many are actually for it. Interestingly, So, but let's go to another topic.
mm.
In terms of, I mean, raising your children, in Botswana and raising them in the UK. You were raised here. You went there as an adult. What do you think are the major differences between raising children here in Botswana, maybe in Tlokwe, in Muchudi, in Molepolole, as opposed to raising them in the UK, in bigger
It,
communities,
yeah.
fast-paced communities, different types of food, music, leisure time, how you spend time with family. What do you think would be the major differences?
Um, I think even in Botswana, it will be determined by the type of family that you come from.
Yeah.
But generally, for me, when I raise my eldest, he was only about 2 years when I came to England.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I wasn't a hands-on mother. You had somebody else
Yeah, that's true.
to look after that child. And we are giving away so much of our power as parents to other people, for good or bad. But for me, reflecting on that period, I regret that period. I did not spend it well with my son because then I missed a few things. I missed the fact that he his hearing went down. He had what we call glue ear. So had I been really present, I would have noticed those little subtle changes in his behavior because he was hyper. And I thought, oh God, I need to occupy him with other things. Um, but I think one thing that children need all over the world is love. Bringing children up in Botswana is nice in the sense that you are surrounded by family, you're surrounded by relatives. You can palm them off if you want to. I never palmed mine off, but I was parenting in a different way. When I came to the UK, I became a very present mother. I
Yeah,
read
I'd
a
say
lot of
that.
educational books on bringing up children. And also, the system here is that you are given a social welfare officer and they do these tests. And of course, in Botswana, it might be because we don't have the sophisticated equipment and stuff like that. But they do, at every stage, they do really detailed testing of children. And that's how we found out that my eldest had developed glue ear. And that explained a number of things of why I would communicate to him and he wouldn't be listening, is because he couldn't hear me. So I became very present as a mother here in everything that they did. I organized our extracurricular activities. I organized our day around from 9 o'clock to 12. They'll be at nursery school with me, what we call mother and toddler classes. So I scheduled my children's time around enhancing their experience of being a child. So after mother and toddler, so I developed schedules. Mother and toddler, they'll come back home, have something to eat, have a little nap, and then we'll be out again to the park. Or we'd go walking wherever we wanted to go walking. Or they'll meet up with some of the kids that they played with. And again, that was regulated time, how much time they can have with other kids and who they were spending that time with. So I became very focused on giving them bigger experiences and very deeper, meaningful experiences of being a child. And at home, I started being the teacher. So they will have times where we are doing particular educational activities with the boys. And that became that's why I'm saying that I was really, really present, allowing them to experiment with things, reading books with them. Um, so I had routines for my children, even up to bedtime, you
I think
know.
I mean, what many people, you know, don't know, maybe here in Botswana, is that the the standard, or the norm in the West really is one parent works and the other stays at home with their children.
Mm,
While here, really the norm is that if you want to afford the things that you need to afford, then both parents have to work, and then often you get a helper to come in,
mm,
to take care of it. Because so the point you're making earlier on about that, if you had raised your kids in Botswana, most probably you would have shared their young lives with a third person, often
mm,
somebody like a maid or a relative who comes to stay with you.
mm,
So it's a totally different experience for young kids. That parents here, both parents will work. While I know the norm in Germany, the norm in Europe is that one parent works and the other one stays at home with the kids.
mm,
So I think that's different. And also, when you're talking about, I think it's important, especially for a school like TDA, when you think about it, because I remember about um, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was sitting in a classroom because here at TDA they have a program called Drop Everything and Read. It's an hour reading program where
Oh,
everybody,
excellent.
must, you know, stop and read, and
Mm,
you could see some kids reading really far from. You realize that some kids have never had their eyes tested, for example. So
yeah.
we didn't discuss that, about proper testing, finding out what some of these small things that are really big. The child
Mm,
cannot hear properly, the child cannot read properly,
mm,
cannot see properly, perhaps. Child may have problem with the motor skills. So
mm.
I think you are correct that there is a need for the education system to be more involved in assessments, much more than it's happening right now. So you're correct about that.
Yes.
But
Mm.
what is the one challenge, that you feel you met when you're once you go to UK in the education system? I'm going to pause here so you can think about it. But in the meantime, just we're going to pause here. When we come back, we'll discuss about some of the challenges and some of those special opportunities that you believe you couldn't have had in Botswana, which you had in the UK. So opportunities and challenges in the education system at a personal level, at a family level. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we will break here and we'll come back and we'll continue this conversation with Cassie in the UK, a child who was born in Tlokweng, raised in Botswana, took her family to the UK, stayed in the education system, got further education in the UK as well. So talking to Cassie, education, challenges and opportunities, raising children from two different cultures and forming their own culture. Third culture kids, I think they are called. When we come back, welcome back to Things That Matter, a conversation with Cassie, and talking about the education system, talking about her experiences, the teacher from Botswana who continue to teach in the UK, raise her family there, and now we are discussing, or she's going to be sharing with us, opportunities that she believes that she may not have had as she stayed in Botswana, challenges that she met in the UK that she feels may not have been challenges in Botswana. And she will also talking to us about her future, that she see herself back in this country in the future as the kids grow older, and she has the freedom to do that which she loves. Cassie, you're back.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Opportunities.
Yes, ma'am.
Whew. When I went back to university
Mm-hmm.
to do both my undergraduate degree and my postgraduate degree,
Mm-hmm.
um, was on the back of the student loans, which I think Botswana does student loans as well. Um, but what is really important here was that I had that opportunity to go back to education at a later stage. I think I must have been about 27.
Okay.
Um, and the universities had inbuilt nurseries. I had a choice of taking my youngest, then would have been 2 years old
Uh-huh.
or just about. Um, my eldest had already started school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I had an option to take my kids with me to uni and put them in the nursery school. But also I had an option to have someone come in and pick them up, take them to school, stay with them until both of us were back at home.
Just pause there a little
So,
bit. Just pause there. Are you
mm,
saying that the student loan package actually could facilitate that? Is that correct?
yeah, the student loan would have facilitated that, and also the
Wow.
university at a
Okay.
very cut price, lower price.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Had they have nursery schools for lecturers, for students, and the wider community. So you are getting a very subsidized, very good care for your child while you are teaching or while you are studying. You know, I chose to leave mine with what do you call her? I don't want to say a sitter because she wasn't a sitter. Um, she would pick them up from the house,
Mhm.
take them to school, then go and pick them from school at about 3 or 12 o'clock with the little one who was in nursery school then. And then she will take them to her house. Now, the difference here is that these people are certified, they are checked, they are trained, and the safeguarding, I come back to safeguarding of children
Mhm.
in the hands of those people that look after them.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, and as a parent, you get to know your child that much that you would know if they are unhappy with someone.
Mhm.
And my sister was such a good a godsend. So I never worried about the safety of my children. We both had a routine. I gave her my schedule, what the kids do, and how I wanted my kids to be handled while they are in her care.
Mhm.
Um, so that is an opportunity I can never take for granted. The fact that I had somebody qualified looking after my children, and
Mhm.
part of my student loan was paying that as that package because you got the student loan, then you have the living loan.
Mhm.
Um, so that was a good opportunity. And also, what I like about here is the second chances,
Mhm.
third chances.
Yeah.
People are not written off. You don't fail your GCSE or JC, and
Yeah.
people go, "That's it. Your life is over."
Mhm.
Because it's a different culture here in terms of how people value education. In Botswana, we are holding on to it like, yes, it's really important, and for different cultural reasons. Here, people have the freedom to get into education. If they don't want to stay, they go and find employment,
Mhm.
and then they can come back again later on. So that's what I'm talking about, these second chances, not writing people off.
Mhm.
I may
I
not
think.
know maths,
Mhm.
but it doesn't make me an idiot. It means I've got multiple
Mhm. Yeah.
intelligences. So let us utilize that side of the person that does not um, click with mathematics. What about the creative side? What they've got other things. Let's look at the human being in this holistic view, and that is going to inform how good teaching becomes in our country.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting point. Very interesting point because I think the culture here is that people fail.
Mm,
You write your standard seven and you fail. And
mm,
then some people go to Form 3 and then they fail. They
mm,
fail. I mean, you see, and my argument, probably you would agree with me. I always say, no, 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 no. I mean, if that exam is set for a 12-year-old of that intelligence, that child should
mm,
not fail. It means that
mhm.
the test was wrong or the preparation for the test was wrong. So the child doesn't fail. The system fails the child.
Thank you.
So it may well be that, the child, like you say, is not gifted in maths, but so what? So every child can learn something, if you take into consideration their aptitude, their intelligence, their
Yeah.
God-given talents,
Mm,
and so I think
mm,
you're correct. And some, kids also mature at different levels. So
exactly.
somebody who does it really badly, at IGCSE doesn't necessarily, they're not stupid. It could
Mm,
be a very tough time in their lives. It could
mm,
be, so there's so many factors that you cannot judge somebody on one exam in
mm,
their life. So
mm.
I really appreciate what you are saying about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to what you just touched on that, if the system fails the child or the student, um, how much do we prepare our students to be able to deconstruct the work that we put in front of them? I am a straight believer, Unity, as a teacher, that if you go in the classroom as a teacher and you are not prepared, you have no lesson plan, you think you're going to fly by the seat of your pants. that becomes very easy for students to see, and students do not have a structured lesson. The one way to do that, come prepared, have an active scheme of work, have an active lesson in chunks. And so when students then are presented with that information, they know what to do with it. They have, I believe in this thing, I do, we do, and then you do.
Okay.
And I believe very much this is the most important thing, continuous professional development.
Yeah.
That's what I have got from teaching in England. Teachers need to have that continuous professional development. It might be that inset day, 3 days of the week of or the year, where teachers are not teaching, students have been set work, they are at home, and teachers have to reflect on their delivery. What is it that we have done this year that has gone well? What is it that we can improve? We are now teaching students in technology-based society, and we cannot go back to that. And coronavirus has shown us that.
Yeah. It's true.
What are we doing now as teachers to be able to enhance each child's education through the use of online classrooms, if possible, or online platforms that are there?
There's
So,
always
and I
the
think for
challenges.
Botswana going forward, we really need to look at this continuous professional development.
You're correct. You're correct. I think, and
Mm,
also, I mean, now there are also so many more opportunities for that,
yeah.
because of the resources, online resources that are out there. So I
Mm,
hope, and I'm sure teachers that will be listening, and they'll be, agreeing with you completely, one teacher to another. And challenges. If we were to look at some of the challenges that you face in the UK, that you thought were uniquely UK challenges, what would you say, if any?
um, the challenges have been literally getting to know each individual student, and realizing that I'm just going to use a joke here, okay?
Yeah. All right.
I normally say to my student, if they are being sort of smart, like, being sassy, I'll just say, um, you'll be funny one day, not today, right?
You be funny.
Some of them will crack up and
Oh,
laugh,
you see, okay, yes, yes, okay. Yeah,
but they
yeah.
say that to a wrong student, and it's at the wrong time. That could
Then, yeah,
trigger an avalanche of problems for you as a teacher.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm,
so I think it's knowing your students, and really getting to know them at an individual level. Some of them I have really great relationships with them. Some are very shy, and I have to actually factor that in. It's the same with answering questions. I know that so and so is not going to answer question in class because they are physically like in fear of speaking in front of other people. So I have to find ways in which I can include that child in the classroom discussion without directly asking them questions, which is going to put them on the spot and make them even more anxious. So the biggest challenge I think in teaching is making education tailoring to a student, each student. And I'm a firm believer in each child matters. Each
Actually,
child matters.
yeah. Actually, each child matter. We have the head of secondary, is somebody who taught in Botswana,
Mm.
then went to the UK and came back, Mr. Phil Fergus. And one of the
Ah,
things that I remember about him when he was at Tarakan a long time ago is that, I mean, using his own resources, I mean, he had a photograph of every child
mm,
in his school. He was a head
mm,
teacher and had, information about the child, their strengths, their weaknesses, their parents,
yeah.
their special condition at home. So I mean, he literally had a photograph, you know, he went beyond just what the school or the education system was asking of him. And I see that he's doing the same thing here, is in a
Mm.
very, very short period of time, he knows every child,
Yeah.
by name, and
Mm.
also not just that, recording what is special about that child. So next time, like you say, the kind of jokes you can make with them maybe in public, because maybe they were just so distraught because of their personal
Yeah.
experiences. And so really every child is unique, but every child, also uh, demands or deserves special attention. I think
Yeah.
you
And that is what Unity I was saying about the teachers that I remember very badly. They did not cater for the child that is coming from that poor family or looked poor. And for me, the way I do this is we look at, and this is the ethos of the college. We have different like color coded dots for children. So you have green, you have purple, or you have blue, and all of them signal to us. So if it's a purple, for example, we know that this child is coming from a very poor family. So the resources that we give, because the other kids might come in with iPads and stuff like that. So we provide iPads to them. The option is there. Would you like to borrow the iPad so that you are able to do the work at home, the Chromebooks and stuff like that? Mental health, all those kind of things. Kids are color coded. And that is not to discriminate against them, is to empower and to make sure that they basically are catered for while they are with us. And I think that is really extremely important because teaching then becomes personable in that way.
one
Mm.
last one last comment. Your future, the teacher from Botswana in the UK. Can we expect you? And one of the reasons we do this show is to identify people who we think, resources permitting, time permitting, COVID permitting, we can bring into our school so that our teachers, can interact with them, our students can interact with them. So we see you with you in you, a possible collaborator. And so are we correct that we might see you in our shows one day?
Thank you, Unity. Um, I'm going to look into my crystal ball, all right?
Okay, okay.
Actually, it's tea leaves. So,
TV's okay. Yeah.
Unity, do you know what? When I met you on a one-to-one level, and you said to me, Cassie, come along, let me show you, let's just talk. And you taking me around your house. Let me show you, my plans. Let me just talk to you about my plans. And at the end of that tour, you said to me, Cassie, we are at the age where we have to take risks. And our children are not going to go without education. Our children are not going to be so adversely affected. And with that, you almost showed me in what has already had been there for years, 10 years, probably 15. And so I would say, let's watch this space.
Okay. Yes. I mean, I hear you, and I really do believe that we're at an age where you can steal a month out of your life from your
Hmm.
family and do something special for yourself.
Yeah.
You understand? So we can take risks
Mm.
because we're not breastfeeding anymore.
Yeah.
The kids, are out of the house, um, or not quite out of the house, but you are unlikely to change the course of their lives significantly by taking
Yeah.
a bit of time to yourself. So I
Mm.
really think that you have the experience and the skills and the education, to come back, even if for just a month or 2 months, 3 months, even if
Mm.
it's online as well. Remember, these are
Mm.
new times. So thank you very much, for coming on the show. But do you have one last um, word for your viewers and your listeners, for your children, your age mates, for Batokwa?
Um, for everyone, I will just say, look, let's treat each other the way we'd like to be treated.
That's
I
great.
am a firm believer in seeing humanity in everyone that we meet. It's just that respect. I live in a country where the goodness of strangers has kept me going.
Uh-huh.
You meet someone, and then, I mean, I've been uh, a victim of racial discrimination in public. But what was really cementing for me the idea that, humans are not the same is the fact that people would go to the police station, report these incidences ahead of me.
Uh-huh.
I remember one incident. I came off the train, and the police were there, and they came to me and said, "Are you the lady that just got this and that?" So the humanity, let's show each other humanity. Let's treat each other with kindness and love. And that will change the next generation we're raising of Botswana children.
Thank you very much
Compassion.
with that. Compassion. Thank you very much with that, Cassie. I agree with you that the majority of people are good.
Mm, mm,
It's just a few bad ones who often
yeah.
will be focused on, and
Mm,
but who spoil the whole world. But we cannot let them do that. So
mm.
things that matter. Cassie, thank you very much. I think it was great speaking to you, and I hope that we will be face to face. See you the other side of Corona.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for giving me this platform. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I shall see you soon.
Thank you. Things that matter.
Thank you, this is better. All right.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I get a photograph? Do I get a photograph with him on the screen? Yeah, let's do it. Let's smile and have a photograph is being taken of the two of us.
Yeah.
Alright, three. Now just have to look over there. That's good. Three, two, one.
Okay.
Busy doing.
Oh, what are you doing? Take a photograph. What is it?
I believe it's long done.
Okay, thank you. Casey, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Really, I do. I enjoyed talking to you when you were in Botswana, so I just really hope this conversation will continue, and that I can see you in a classroom somehow, if it's not physically, maybe online.
And I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity is around, I know someday it'll all turn around, because you say.